Today's video, we're going to talk about validating your email addresses and your phone number submissions on your landing page, form submissions, or contact forms in order to get 35% more profit out of your campaign. So if you don't know what I'm talking about yet, on a landing page, your contact form, assuming you want contact forms to be filled in, a lot of niches like plumbing services, almost nobody fills out a form, and anybody who's serious anyway. But in a lot of other businesses, the form is where the qualified leads truly come from, especially any B2B services. In that case, whether or not you actually allow people to put a bogus phone number or bogus email address if they want to, can greatly affect your campaigns. Namely though, I will admit, in situations where you're offering information, lead magnet, or what have you, because people tend to put false information there, to get the lead magnet. But not only in that case, also, if somebody's requesting, let's say legal services, a lot of times they'll put a fake number in there, but their real email address because they only want an email response from the company. And in that case, that lead could have been sold if you would have got them on the phone, but because they just want to say, what's the price through email, you really can't build any rapport with them, and therefore you can't sell to them. So in that case as well, having the phone number would have helped you make the sale. And by validating the phone number, make sure it's real before the user could physically submit the form can be the difference between making a lot of sales versus, some sales. The same thing with the email address as well, letting people put in a dummy email address. Reality is you can actually, with different validation services out there, validate whether the email is real and the phone number is real before you let the user submit the form. I recommend both if you want to get the most out of your ad campaigns. Now, that said, if you force people to have a phone number on a form, they only want to give you their email address, and you, let's say, have the phone number required, they're not going to fill out your form. But in some cases, you have to ask them for the phone number to make a sale at a high enough rate to pay for your ad spend. So everything's a little bit situational. And for that matter, in some occasions, forcing them to put a phone number is the best way to go. In other cases, technically, having them be able to put the phone number or needing to put the phone number to submit the form, but not validating it is the way to go, because ultimately you'll make the most money that way, because a lot of people don't have a real phone number to put, and therefore you're not going to get as many forms. What I'm telling you here is you should test it all the different ways, and in general, you'll typically make the most money by forcing the user to put a real phone number in there versus a false one, because you cannot do, that is if you understand how to do phone sales, make very much money not talking to people over the phone. Through email alone, it's not worth a damn, which is why you want phone number validation. And phone number validation is something that likely your competitors don't do and very many people don't know about in general. This is a newer thing, but the people that are really running big campaigns, they're all using this, practically speaking, nowadays. So I'm going to talk about specifically kind of like how to do it, and then of course what the benefits are, what you should earn out of it, and ultimately everything you need to know to capitalize with this strategy for yourself. Before I go into the content, if you do not know who I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we can get them a certain minimum lift in their profitability on their ads. And that's basically going to offset any management fee that we charge. We are the only agency out there who offers any kind of similar crazy guarantee, which should tell you something about the quality of information you're receiving on today's video. With that said, getting into the content here. So specifically for lead magnet campaigns where you have an ebook and you're requiring people to give you at least their email address, if not their phone number, which by the way, you should be asking for their phone number as well, because that's how you make those campaigns truly work well. Work to where you're making 3 times as much money. You want to validate the email address and phone number on these lead magnet campaigns where you're offering an ebook or whatnot in order to get the true value out of those campaigns. Most of the time, it's not going to work just trying to send them an email sequence after they submitted that lead magnet. Why? Because a lot of people don't read email anymore, or they don't see the email. They get 10,000 emails. They're not going to notice it. Not to say you can't make money. It's just not nearly as likely as per our experience at our ad agency, where clients will take our lead and suggestion to have a phone number on the form and then use an actual scripted sales process to actually sell to the person while they're still reading the ebook, which I'm going to talk about here. And then with that said, I'll actually explain an actual case study here where we actually did the validation of the phone number and the email address, and you can see how much of a difference it made doing the validation with the lead magnet where we were asking for the phone number already to make sure the phone numbers were valid as well as the email addresses itself. So anyway, with this said, if you do a lead magnet campaign, they're way underutilized. Almost nobody does them. They just want to run their search ad on Google. So if somebody's looking for landscaping services, they run an ad for landscapers in Dallas or landscapers near me or whatever. And that's great and everything, but it's so limiting in terms of what you can do with online ads. Targeting people who are looking for landscaping ideas, knowing that if they download that, they're likely, they're going to be valuing to spend some money on their landscaping in their future, some of which are going to hire somebody. Why would you not want to crack at every single one of those people? The answer to that is that people don't know how to monetize leads that are not totally ready to buy already, which Gary Vaynerchuk actually recently mentioned. Running Google search ads for buying terms, that's not even marketing. That's just sales. You're just buying customers from Google. Of course, you have to do it right, and it's complicated still, but you're just buying customers. You can't call yourself a marketer if that's all you do. Marketing is developing into creating demand in your market using content, but there's a lot of different other ways of doing it. The one that nobody really does, even though it works so damn well, is offering content. So people that are going to be close to making a purchase, you can market that content to them and then get and start talking to them and make a lot of sales at the end of the day. Once you even factor in paying for the ad spend to get them to download the lead magnet / ebook as well. So you have your lead magnet campaign. You're running ads on YouTube, demand gen, display campaigns, also Google search when people are typing in informational type queries like how much is gastric bypass surgery, and you want to send them to a thing that says, gastric bypass surgery price guide. You get the landing page together, and then, which by the way, those are all places we're going to run a lead generation campaign like that, promoting an ebook. Your user fills out the form, and then what you're going to do on your form is you're going to validate the email address and the phone number to make sure they're real. Because otherwise, people will give you half of the time dummy ones because they just want the material. They don't want to talk to a salesperson, which you may say, well, if I want to talk to a salesperson, I don't want to talk to them. Nobody wants to be sold anything. That's the reality. A good salesperson could take somebody who doesn't want to buy and get them to buy. I mean, that's how you make money. For that matter, you get the information, you know it's validated, you use a third-party service to validate the email address and phone number in real time. If you're using a landing page tool like Unbounce, like we use at our own agency, using Zapier, you can connect with the third-party services and they'll validate the email and phone number in real time. So literally while they're typing it in, it can be validated and will not let you submit the form without getting it validated. And most platforms have through Zapier where you can connect with these third-party services, of which there's so many out there. For that matter, if you want the best one, I would say certainly you want to work with Axicom for that information because they're going to have the most robust databases as to everything that's out there, but there's also specialist companies that aren't too bad. With that said, you get the information. If you're going to take my advice on how we've had many clients use ebooks to generate hundreds of leads a month and hundreds of sales a month as a result, and service companies, but also product companies alike. You use a service called Call Drip, and Call Drip is a service that allows you that when somebody fills out a contact form on your landing page and they put their phone number in one of the fields for the phone number, you can actually at that point in time have Call Drip send a call to your salesperson. And then what will happen, the salesperson will get a call and it'll say, you got a call from your lead magnet campaign. Press 1 to get in contact with John Smith, who filled out the form. You hit 1 and then you connect that salesperson immediately. It calls that user who filled out the form for that salesperson. And so what ultimately it does is it enforces a certain policy with the sales team. That is, you are not going to allow any form fill to get filled out without contacting the user within a certain period of time, of which you can use other add-ons to have a delay. And I would recommend about a 2-minute delay on when the form is submitted before this automated call goes out. That way the user has time to read the ebook, see that the material is good, get into it, and then they're getting a call while they're at the highest level of engagement. If you wait 15 minutes, a lot of them are already moving on to other things. That seems to be about the sweet spot on these campaigns that we're running. Then with that said, you call them up and then you just simply say, hey, I just noticed you read my ebook, and do you have any questions about anything you're reading? If so, I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm a gutter repair expert who's been doing it for 25 years. I know everything there is about gutter repair, so if you want to know anything about pricing, whatever, I'm the person to ask. And then just let them talk. And some people are going to be like, F you, click. They're going to hang up the phone. That's fine. But 10% or so will start having a conversation with you. And of those, 10 to 20% you're going to close into a sale. And given that the leads don't have to be that expensive, you can actually end up making a lot of money when you're not paying very much for a lead. Typically on even running like YouTube, demand gen ads and stuff like that, you could get ebook downloads for $5-10 a submit if you actually know what you're doing in terms of targeting and getting in front of the right people. Or you could run search ads and do the same thing. It varies by market what you're going to be paying per lead because the traffic itself will vary in price. Same thing with running ads on YouTube and the rest of it. And then with that, even if you only get 3% of people to buy from you, or, and let's say of the people you talk to, 5 to 8% to book an appointment, you can make money from that. At least if you're selling a product or service for at least a few $100s, if not a few $1,000s in terms of their value. So to say. If you're only selling something for $100, it's tough to get lead magnet campaigns to pay because the cost of traffic is just too high. With that said, that's your funnel right there. And the validation makes sure that your calls that are getting sent to Call Drip will work properly. You're not going to get bogus calls 50% of the time. And by the way, when you, on a lead magnet campaign, when you ask for the phone number, cut the number of leads you get down into a third of what you would have had with just asking for the email. Which you may say, well, why do I want to do it? Well, the reality is, again, you can close at a super high rate when you actually get them on the phone. Way higher than what you would do just getting their email. We're talking 20 times higher closing rates on those leads. Now, I don't care how good your email drip sequence is that you think is going to sell them all on its own. And so with that said, though, you really have to make sure you're getting a high rate of contacts with the people that you're asking for the phone number from, make a decent ROI, not letting half of the people give you a dummy number because they don't want it. And that's where the validation really comes into play, making sure the phone number is real before they get the ebook. If your ebook is titled appropriately, they are going to give you a real number if you force them to. If it's easy to give you a fake number, they'll give you a fake number. But when you have an ebook that is like, you were looking for gastric bypass surgery and our ebook says gastric bypass surgery, price guide, see gastric bypass surgery by state and county nationwide and by doctor or whatever. Some ridiculous thing that they know they ain't going to find anywhere else online, where most people fail with lead magnets, why they don't get it to work, is they come up with some generic title like gastric bypass surgery buying guide. They know they can go to Google at any time, look for that information. It's not rare or unique. Keyword there being rare. You got to have something that they find, like they say to themselves, wow, I cannot believe I found this. Then they're going to damn well give you their phone number if you're forcing them to. That's got to be your minimum bar to get over here for yourself. With all that said, the validation is going to help you get real phone calls coming through, and then you train your salesperson to have an actual script. You're going to split test your script. That is the flow of the call to maximize your appointments that you're going to set, or purchases if you don't have a two-step sales process, and you'll start making some money. Then, of course, once you know what your cost per appointment is or cost per sale is, an average revenue, you can look at what it costs to get a phone call, and if it's your phone calls are coming in too expensive, you refine your traffic. Okay, well, this keyword brings in calls at phone number submits at $6 a submit. This keyword brings them in at $3. Well, 6 is not expensive. Let's just shut off these keywords for this grouping that only brings in $6 a submission. And we'll just stick with the keywords that bring in $3 submissions. And now we're making money. So it's not a matter of if it will make money if you got the right ebook. It's just what traffic sources, what keywords, what videos your video ad is going to show up on pitching the ebook is on that will get you a cheap enough cost per call, cost per phone number submission to make it work, to make the math work. With all that said, like I mentioned, I had an actual case study here I wanted to go through to show you how well this works and how much specifically you can make when you actually have the validation hooked up on this overall process. So you start getting phone numbers at a much higher rate, so to say. Given that most people will give you a real number, one, you have a good ebook, like I mentioned, that being the key thing to get and have the same kind of lift in your results than to get a 35% lift in your profitability of your ads at the end of the day using it. Before I do that, if you have any questions, by the way, about anything I'm covering here, you can always leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time. Along with that, if you are wanting to know the small details on setting up a lead magnet campaign, I've got certain content about this exclusively. You can search about it on my channel homepage. In general, if you're trying to make a lot of money with ads, you should subscribe to this channel because all the information I share on this channel is given to you by somebody who spends 40 hours a week doing ad strategy at our firm, which is rare because most of the other people on YouTube don't run any ads, or they run a firm and they don't get their hands dirty. They really don't know the inner workings on how this stuff works. This is all I do. And I literally have to spend my weekends sharing what works because I don't have time during the week because I have dozens of accounts to do come up with strategy for. So if you want to pay attention and subscribe to anything, you want to subscribe to this channel. So therefore, if you haven't subscribed already, you should. Furthermore, you should check out my blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. The blog has the strategies that I'm using for clients at our firm with the step-by-step instructions, with the screenshots, everything you need to use them. You should definitely check that out as well. With that said, getting into the case study here. So we had a cabinetry maker who makes custom kitchen cabinets, and the ebook title, which is the most important thing on these campaigns, if you're going to run a sequence like I just described here, is the title. People judge what they're going to get by the title/topic. So you need a good topic, but you need a good selling title that's going to really sell the user on how much they need this information and making it seem rare, being the keyword like I mentioned before. That's important here. So for the custom cabinetry maker, what we had as far as a title of the ebook and lead magnet was New Cabinetry Trends in Dallas, Ideas and Prices. So the key thing here is, of course, the cabinet maker was in Dallas, and we didn't just say we had ideas for kitchen cabinets in general. It was people in Dallas, what they have. People want to know what what's trending in their city, and they want to know what the prices are for executing different ideas. So in other words, and what we did with the graphics and some of the copy is we said, here are the trends, and we actually show you how much it costs to do each one of these trends. That's the idea behind the content, and it sold really well. We were getting about a $94 cost per appointment before adding any validation to our form. In terms of at least the phone call level, we were already doing validation on the email level before, but then when we switched to phone call validation, what do you think we dropped the cost per appointment down to? Now that we were getting all real phone numbers, essentially, which these validation services will know if it's a real number 99% of the time. Now, they could put a fake number in that's verified as real. That can happen because they guessed it right, but they're not going to be putting phone numbers that are just disconnected and whatnot. And it's actually harder than you think to guess a real working number. But it dropped down to $61 an appointment once we started validating the phone number before sending the phone call to the salesperson, which that's great in itself. We increased the profitability over 30% as a result of using the same exact ad spend, same exact traffic as before. But we also save money in terms of the salesperson's time. You don't think about it like a salesperson. If they're on the phone with somebody and then somebody else calls, now that lead's less likely to convert if you have to call them back. So you want to optimize, every single call that comes into the salesperson is going to be a real person. It's not going to be somebody who's not there. With that said, if you are validating the phone number itself and somebody punches in a fake number and they see they're not going to be able to get away with that, and they put the real number in there, you're more likely that when the phone call goes through, the salesperson's going to talk to a real person, so to say. Versus with call drip, if you put a fake number in there, it's not going to, of course, go through as well. If it ain't able to connect, and it's not going to waste that much of their time, but at least we'll save them a little bit of time in that the numbers that are going through, it's likely to be a real person because they think it has to be a real number. They're not going to just try to guess a different number and maybe they get it right, and then therefore they're talking to Jane versus John, so to say, if you follow what I'm trying to say here. But so that's another factor to consider. So anyway, this shows you just how much of a difference this makes on your profitability getting a real phone number, at least when you're talking about lead magnet campaigns. Like I mentioned at the start of this video though, also, if you're running just buying keyword campaigns on Google search, which in this case, we were running Google search ads for people looking for custom cabinet ideas, also showing a video ad, pitching our ebook to people watching videos about how to custom kitchen cabinet ideas as well there. We also do phone number validation as one of the kind of the things that we do overall and have started to do overall, even on campaigns where we're just targeting people on Google search ready to buy to make sure we get a real number. Given, like I said, a lot of people, when I say a lot, 5 to 10% of people aren't going to give you a real number because they just want you to communicate with them through email only. And you can sell to these people if you can call them. Even though they don't think that they want to talk to somebody, you get them on the phone with a skilled salesperson, they're going to close some of those leads, 10, 20% of them. And so you're throwing away between 1 and 5% of your sales not validating the number. So that's something also to consider as well when in terms of phone number validation on forms, and how it can make you more money. Maybe something else that you're doing if you're not doing lead magnet campaigns like we were doing with the cabinetry company, or at least also doing, because we were also running ads on people searching for a cabinetry maker near me and stuff like that too. With that said, if you want somebody to set this up that just knows what they're doing, you don't have the time or the patience for it, this is exactly what I do for clients that are firm. You can reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com. I'll have a conversation with you about it. We offer a free initial consultation. Similar to that, we also have ad templates. If we've worked in your niche market before, we could sell you the winning ads, landing pages, all of it that work for your market. You copy paste that into your ad account after purchasing it from us and get the same results we're getting in another city or country for yourself. None of the work, none of the money and time it took for us to figure out how to get those results. We worked in over 100 different niche markets, so the chances are high we've already got the results you're looking for and therefore the template that you're looking for. We'll tell you the results you're going to get with it up front because we already have those numbers, by the way. And then finally, with that as well, we also offer coaching. I've been personally coaching people that just need short-term help to figure out how to get to the next level with their ads. I go through a client's website, pricing strategy, packaging, product images, whatever they got, and I figure out what the next best thing is to do to get their sales to go up and to the next stage. I'm very good at doing this. 99% of the people who come for coaching have come to me for coaching from this channel, come back for more coaching, or say they're going to come back because the information was so good and the value they got in that 30-minute call already was so good they know they're going to come back. So with that said, I'm going to pretty much wrap it up with that. Hopefully this made a lot of sense. I highly, highly, highly recommend you start thinking about content marketing, pitching content with ads, come up with a decent piece of content that everybody in your space wants. You'll probably be the only one in your niche doing it and therefore make quite a bit of money. And especially with this proven system that we've used several times now to make and get hundreds of leads a month in even local service markets. So with that said, I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said lead magnet campaigns was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.